Back to Zoom.
Wait. Let it just do its thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Here we are, live on Facebook. Welcome. Shalom. I'm talking to you from Israel. It's 10 o'clock here. It's 5 o'clock Australia time. Bless your heart, Rose. Welcome to TMS Roundtable. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfein, if you don't know me. I'm a chiropractor and a rehabilitation specialist. For 35 years, my passion and my mission is body, mind, pain, and solutions. I can't even pronounce social distancing, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, something big. And I hope along with me, you're all finding the gift in this world situation. So Rose, welcome again, 5 a.m. in Australia.
Good morning, the world. Thanks for joining us again. Many of us are not only suffering from social distancing, but a loss of job, fractures in relationships, isolation from loved ones, missing co-workers, but the list may be different for each of us. But loss and grief is all around us. By now, many have lost loved ones, and to you, we send our condolences. But the personal pain is exacerbated. My name is Rose Hoey. I'm an intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, short for ISTDP, a modality that focuses on revealing the repressed and neglected feelings hidden in the unconscious. The work releases us from the pain experienced in our original attachment bonds. Please take a few moments to breathe in peace and be aware of your body and the feelings within your body. Laura, a mother, wife, maths teacher, is going to share us how she saw something like 25 doctors in so many states in the United States who gave her different diagnoses. Then reaching out to a different type of therapy changed her life. Please let us know where you are in the world right now, and please ask questions, make comments as we go along. Laura will respond after she has given us a rundown on her aha moments. And we will do a short breathing exercise at the end. Over to you, Laura.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Thank you, Dr. Tovah. My journey basically began in May 2015. I started out like any other normal day. I got my kids to school, I exercised, I ate my breakfast, and then literally all of a sudden, I started having these UTI symptoms. As the day went on, they progressively got a little worse, so I called the doctor, and he did a test, and basically nothing was wrong. I was shocked and assumed he was wrong. So in the next month, I visited 3 different urologists. They put me through some invasive and uncomfortable tests at the time. And again, nothing was wrong. One urologist told me I had overactive bladder and gave me some medicine, which didn't work. Another one told me I had retention. Again, gave me some medicine and it didn't work. The third one basically told me I was crazy and needed to go see a psychiatrist. And I ran out of his office sobbing. Over the next 3 years, if I fast forward, I started developing chronic pelvic pain. It became progressively worse every day. Sometimes the pain was excruciating. It was hard to sit, stand, or walk for long periods of time. I couldn't wear restrictive clothing. I had to wear sweatpants. I wasn't able to wear jeans. And it's really a scary feeling when you go to doctors and you know something's wrong with you and you're in pain and they don't know what to do to help you. So over the next 3 years, I saw over 25 doctors, including orthopedists, gynecologists, interventional radiologists, pelvic pain specialists, physical therapists, pain management doctors. I actually went to all different parts of the country. I took planes to Texas, Tennessee, Washington, New York. I had consultations in California, Michigan with all different doctors. I had over 10 different diagnoses given to me. I literally found myself chasing a diagnosis. I searched the internet frantically, just looking for that next procedure or that next doctor that was going to cure me. I had many nerve blocks, iliolingual injections, prudental nerve blocks, Botox injections. I even had some surgical procedures. When all of that failed, I looked for holistic treatments and alternative therapies. I tried crazy things. I'll only mention a few. Cryotherapy. I had extreme diets, supplements, Reiki, more acupuncture. I also continued with my physical therapy throughout this whole time. And I had 2 great physical therapists. And I do believe they had an inkling that part of this was not structural and not physical. They were looking at more of a mind-body connection too. And I was very lucky to have them. At this time, the relationships with my family and my children basically deteriorated. I was on a lot of medication. I was on oxycodone, morphine, nerve medications, Valium, and Klonopin. And all the medication was messing with my head, and it would only alleviate the pain in the short term, and it would come back even worse. The hardest part of this whole thing and this pain condition was basically that I lost a connection with my children. They were building up anger and resentment and sadness toward me, and you could just literally see it inside of them. I was so sad, and I had an overwhelming amount of guilt for what I was doing to them emotionally. And it wasn't just what I was doing to them emotionally, it was what I was doing to them financially, taking all the finances away from our family. I was in such pain, I didn't want to hug them or kiss them. My younger daughter would want to sit on my lap, and because the physical pain was so great, I didn't want to let her. Fortunately, one day it all changed. My 16-year-old daughter, Anna, came home from work, and she told me that her friend had seen a hypnotherapist for hip pain. Now, you have to remember, I have seen over 25 doctors, all telling me the same thing, that they could cure me. So I was very skeptical that this woman would help me. However, I was willing to give it a try because I had nowhere else to go. So on July of 2017, I met Caitlin, my hypnotherapist. And I didn't know it at the time, but when I walked through her door, she was going to be the person that would change my life forever. She was different than any therapist or person, for that matter, that I ever met. Her techniques were different. She didn't care about the symptoms, the pain, or the diagnosis. And to be honest, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. So the two of us started our journey. I started hypnotherapy. And basically, if you don't know what hypnotherapy is, I would go into a deep meditative state where I was able to connect with my emotions. I had no idea I was even repressing emotions at this time. But in the sessions, I worked on letting go of my anger, my fear, my guilt, my sadness, all these things that I was repressing. And in the very first session, it was actually amazing. I was able to get the pain to go down. I was really confused because I've had so many doctors and none of them were able to. And then within one hypnotherapy session, the pain just went from a 10 to about a 2. that was my first aha moment. And from this point on, I would experience a series of aha moments that would continue. This was the first time that I realized that there was a mind-body connection to my pain. Then was aha moment number 2. I took a meditation class with this great woman, Anne, and she was a great teacher, and she was calm and she was patient. And during these meditation classes where I learned, I was able to basically calm my whole nervous system down. I was repressing a lot of emotions and past traumas, and this caused an overwhelming amount of stress in my life. And while I was meditating, I was able to either get the pain to decrease, to shift, or go away. But I have to tell you, that did not happen overnight. I was extremely disciplined and consistent with my meditation. I practiced 20 minutes a day, twice a day, sometimes more. It was the first form of self-care I had given myself in years. I made the time for myself to meditate. I also practiced a lot of self-compassion at this time in my life. I was so amazed with this whole shift from the meditation that I decided to make a meditation room in my house for myself. So I bought furniture that needed to be put together. I bought salt lamps. I bought crystals, anything to make this room really nice for myself. And one day I cleared out the room and I brought in the furniture and I put it together and I had the room set up perfectly. And I realized when I put this room together, I didn't have pain. I didn't even realize it at the time. And my brain was completing another task. So when I was concentrating on something else, my pain went down. So that was aha moment number 2. Just so you know, I brought meditation into my life in many ways. I didn't just meditate. I practiced mindfulness. And if you don't know what mindfulness is, I just tried to keep myself in the present moment without any judgment for myself. I would take walks and I would simply just find something I could feel, smell, taste, touch, or hear to keep myself out of my thoughts. I would say mantras day in and day out. I am healing. I am strong. I would say them so like my brain had them on autopilot. They would almost be saying them without me even remembering I was saying them. I visualized myself healthy. And I didn't only visualize myself healthy, I printed out pictures of me with my children and my family of what I would do when I was healthy. But I didn't wait to get healthy. I started doing them now. Then this is actually my favorite story. This is aha moment number 3. I was extremely depressed and anxious and in a lot of pain. And I would get to Caitlin's office before her almost every time. I would get there early. And there was a long hallway that I had to walk down to get there. So I would sit in front of her door and wait for her to come. When she turned the hallway, she would check to see if I was sitting there. And all of a sudden, the music would go on. And Caitlin would dance down the entire hallway. And to be honest, when you're not feeling good, that was the only thing that probably made me smile all week. I'm extremely grateful to her. And it's very hard to put it into words, how grateful I am. And I wanted to repay her, and there's no way to repay her financially. So for 3 months, I learned the steps to a dance. Me and my daughters, they showed me how to do it, and I practiced. And for her birthday, I danced down the hallway. You say, why 3 months? Well, for those of you that know me, I'm a very bad dancer. So it actually took me 3 months to learn the steps of this dance. And here's why the story is important. The story is important because when my brain was focusing on the task of learning the steps to the dance, the pain actually went down. And I didn't know it at the time, but my brain was creating these new neural pathways and it was weakening the old pain pathways. So that was aha moment number 3. Now, during those 3 years, I had plenty of MRIs. They did MRIs, CAT scans, all different things. And in any 45-year-old woman, they are going to find something. And they found varicose veins, they found endometriosis, they found herniated disc, Tarlov cyst, all these different things that they thought might have been causing my pain. I tell you this for a reason. I went to Florida that year with my daughter to take her to a soccer tournament. And I get on the plane, and as the plane takes off, all of a sudden, my pain went away. Now, I do want to tell you, I was off all my painkillers at the time. I was off Oxy, I was off morphine, and I was off my Klonopin, which was a hard feat to do. I spent that trip that weekend, and I was in no pain. I had the greatest time with my family. And then I'm on the bus to go back to the airport, and all of a sudden, the pain started to creep back. And I thought to myself, isn't this interesting? All my pelvic pain, my endometriosis, my Tarlov cyst, all these things they found in the MRIs, they all came to Florida with me. I didn't leave them home, and I wasn't in pain. I turned to my husband on the bus, and I said, Caitlin is the key. I better start listening. So I came home, and I read a book, and it was a MindBody book. And it was the first time I heard the word TMS. And here was aha moment number 5. I was reading Unlearn Your Pain by Dr. Schubner. And when I was reading the book, it was like I was reading an autobiography of myself. I felt like I just fit the mold for the entire TMS personality that he talks about in the book. Being a perfectionist, being a people pleaser, being a goodist, being anxious. And then he went on to talk about TMS symptoms that are things that people have that have TMS. And I reflected back on my life for a little bit, and I had tons of those symptoms. Over my life, I've had gastritis, I've had arthritis, I've had migraines, I have sciatica. So that was aha moment number 5, when I felt like I was reading that book literally about myself. I still wasn't 100% convinced that I had TMS. It's hard to accept that diagnosis, basically, that there's nothing structurally wrong. So I found a TMS therapist. I still continue to see Caitlin as well. And her name is Wendy, and she impacted my life greatly. And I'm actually very grateful for her as well. She showed me how energy moved in my body and how I was able to identify the emotions in my body. And all these are repressed emotions that I was holding on to. And there would be times I would be sitting in her office, and she'd ask me to see where I felt the pain in my body. And she started digging and doing probing questions at the emotions. And when we were able to get down to that right emotion, whether it was guilt, anger, whatever, as soon as I picked the right emotion, the pain instantly went down. That was aha moment number 6. Wendy also had me journal. I had to write down all my past, present, and future worries, trauma, anger, all the different things that I was repressing. And when I made the list, I didn't think I was going to have a list. It was overwhelming when I kept writing all the different things that were on my mind. But when I wrote and I journaled, I didn't just write down what I was thinking. I felt the emotion. I had to feel the emotion. I had to listen to my body and uncover what the emotion was repressing, what my body was repressing, basically. I wasn't 100% convinced that I had TMS. So Wendy sent me to a TMS doctor who completely convinced me my symptoms weren't physical and I had nothing else to go on right now. The medical world was not helping me. So I took a deep dive into the world of mind-body medicine and I accepted my diagnosis. I read many books and about TMS, as many as I could get my hands on. I replaced all my pain groups that I had on Facebook with MindBody groups. I exercised. I realized the pain was not structural, so I had to tell my brain that I was able to do this and didn't get hurt. I would not get hurt. I meditated twice a day, and I journaled daily, but I didn't just journal. Like I said, I honed in on these emotions. The other thing I had to do was I had to be careful the way I spoke to myself. The thoughts you feed yourself are the ones that grow. And I wasn't speaking to myself very nicely at the time. So I had to change my whole thinking process. I developed a lot of self-compassion and self-care routines. I stopped being hard on myself. There's a lot of work to recover from TMS. And part of it is, doing the work. But if I had a day that I couldn't journal or I couldn't get to something, I didn't punish myself. The most important thing I think that I did was I stopped talking about the pain. I told all my family and friends, they didn't have to ask me about the pain. I didn't want to discuss it anymore. I didn't want to give it legs. What I did was I focused on what I was grateful for instead. I kept dancing. Me and my daughters still to this day do TikTok, which is the kind of a teeny bopper app, but they teach me dances and I feel like it keeps reinforcing my new habits. I stopped waiting to feel good to do things in life. My friends would ask me to do things in the past and I said no. Well, now I said yes. I forgave myself for anything I was holding on to, the guilt, basically, of being sick too. And that was one of the hardest hurdles I had to do. I created my own 6 steps, basically, to getting healthy. All the things I created were things that Caitlin and Wendy taught me, and they're basically the same things Dr. Tovah has in her toolbox. But the more I did and did all those things, the more aha moments basically kept coming. People today ask me all the time if I'm out of pain or if I'm still in pain. And the truth of the matter is everyone's in pain sometimes. And I still get flare-ups every once in a while. I am definitely a TMSer, or that's what I like to call myself. My body notifies me when I'm in pain and I'm repressing some emotion. There's a difference though when I go in some pain now. First thing is I don't fear the pain. I look at it with complete curiosity and ask it why it's here and what it's here to tell me. And now I have tools. I meditate, I journal, I find the emotion, or I just go find something that I love to do and do it and ignore the pain. A lot of good things came out of this pain. I would never want the pain, but I am definitely more present with my kids than I've ever been in my whole entire life. And one of the best things that came out of it is I can wear jeans again. I've learned so many lessons from people and all my experiences over the last 5 years now. And now I use the tools that I've learned, even in my current job today, helping kids with addiction. So basically, that's the journey I've had since 2015. I'm happy, more than happy, to answer any of the questions you might have for me if I can.
Haraka.
It would be a good idea if I unmuted myself. Thank you, Laura. It was a compelling story, really compelling. And, I just made a couple of little notes while you spoke. And I thought the one beautiful thing that I heard was you stopped being hard on yourself. You stopped being driven. And you stayed present in the present moment and not anticipating what you had to do or being or a policeman to yourself, I suppose. And, you know, I've got a little question. What do your friends say about you now?
One friend I remember said I'm a completely different person than when this started. I definitely am. I think about things differently. I act differently.
And you respond differently to...
I respond differently.
Yeah.
I'm also a lot calmer than I was in the past.
Yeah. Amazing. Have we got any questions?
Nikki asked, what was the kind of pain? Because she came in late. So would you just repeat?
Yes, I had chronic pelvic pain. And they had 10 different diagnoses that I was given over those 3 years when I was seeing doctors.
I have a question. Waiting for a few more people to join us. I have a question. You talked a few times about how hard it was to accept that it wasn't physical. I mean, it felt physical. I mean, pain is real. And Rose and I, as pain therapists, never underestimate pain. But we've learned about what the body does when there's pain, and it goes into that fight or flight mechanism, and then the cycle begins, and that pain is sometimes a protection. So did you understand that in your journey at various, at what point did you understand that your pain was protecting you, and this came in such a storm, such a tornado, to protect you?
I guess it was just through those 6 aha moments, basically. Every time something happened, it brought me a little closer and closer that this was a mind-body condition. It's hard to accept that you have TMS. It's very hard to accept that there's nothing structurally wrong with you. I was a math teacher, and when there's a problem, there's a solution. So I was searching for that solution. And luckily enough, I was able to find these aha moments, and I had enough of them that were able to convince me that this wasn't a structural problem. And I think some of the studies I read too helped me. Like when they say, you know, acute pain is under 3 months, and it comes from, I believe this is your prefrontal cortex, whatever, doesn't really matter, the front of your brain. And when they MRI people with acute pain, that's where it comes from. When they MRI people with acute pain, it comes from the emotional part of your brain in the back. So I realized the pain was still coming, but it was coming from a different spot, basically. And even the largest bone of in the body heals, you know, within a few months.
Excellent explanation. You've become a doctor, you know, and you know the name of my book that I'm writing for the last 20 years is called The Doctor Within. And what my purpose in this weekly podcast is just for all of us to know the doctor within is much smarter than any doctor. And I'm not against doctors, but so Ian says the hardest thing for me is finding a distraction when I get numb feet because he's sitting driving a truck all day. So he feels there's only so much that he can tell his brain, and he ends up, you know, beating himself over the head because he can't, you know, how can you calm your foot down when you're driving a truck? So Rose, what advice do you have for Ian?
What was my advice?
What kind of advice do you have for Ian if he's in a truck, his foot is numb, he's trying to tell his brain to, I guess, shut up, and he's in pain? Can you give him a quick tip?
Well, my thoughts would really be that to reflect on the fact that he is probably repressing some angry feelings, and maybe while he's driving his truck, he might sort of think about that and accept that you've got feelings, because as you just said, the protection is to stop you. Let me rephrase that. The whole idea is that when you have pain, it saves you from expressing and acknowledging your feelings, and they're in your body. And the amazing thing is that the pain is in the body and the feelings are in the body.
Right. Right.
And the feelings are sort of like talking to the brain and saying, you know, see me, hear me, listen to me.
Yeah.
I've got a problem.
Yeah.
Let's sort this problem out.
Yeah.
And that's what Laura did. I mean, she went through so many people, but she went through it step by step. And now she continues to observe herself.
Right.
She continues to hold her own space in her life.
Right.
You know, if I could answer too.
Yeah. For Ian.
Yeah. I would walk, and it was very hard for me to walk when I was in the pain. And I carried a piece of paper around with me. I carried a couple pieces of paper around with me. But one of them, I wrote on it, my symptoms are not physical. They are instead my brain's way of distracting me from whatever I was saying. A fight with my family, you know, my sadness I was feeling. It was A, B, C.
Good.
I wrote them down.
Good.
But I didn't just say them. That's the key.
Yeah.
I didn't just say them and repeat them. I felt them. When I was saying I was upset about my family, I felt it in my body. I felt exactly what I was feeling instead of just saying the emotion.
Excellent.
So
Excellent. So I'm just gonna, Laura, I want you to stay on this because another woman named Laura says, I know I have TMS, but she hasn't had an aha moment other than realizing this is what she has. She has some minor improvement, especially when being present with her emotions, which is a real beautiful tool. Thanks for that, Laura. Does she just keep hoping someday that moment will come, that she'll keep having more aha moments? She has some facial nerve pain and she's been working with TMS for 9 months. Suggestions for her without using pain meds. So I just want to give an answer. And this is for Ian and this is for myself. This is for Rose. No one is immune to pain. Rose and I just don't believe that chronic pain is normal and that people should not have to live with it. You know, sometimes you have to talk to the pain and say, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you showing up. I know that I feel some anger and some fear, but I'm just going to hug you. I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to hug you. I'm not going to stuff you and repress you. So this is part of the dance. So Laura, I think it's also about repetition, repetition, repetition. This is a new habit. Laura spent 2 years learning a new habit, still feeling the pain, but learning a new habit. So have patience with yourself. Don't give up. These are universal tools. And Rose will comment and agree as well. Rose, what about that for Laura and the patience you need to just continue?
Well, it's also about recognizing that this pain isn't really new. It's a heartfelt feeling that's being repressed. It's a feeling of not being heard, being ignored, and then taking that on board ourselves and creating that within us. And that's what I liked about Laura, her story. She said, I stopped being hard on myself. Mm-hmm. And I find with patients that through the therapy that I do, that they notice that they've taken on board the ignoring, the putting aside their own feelings because they were protecting the feelings of others. And I'm guessing that if I could use Laura's story to say she was protecting her feelings of maybe resentment towards her family, resentment towards having to be responsible for things. She well could have been the eldest of a family or the middle of the family and had to be responsible for other kids. And now she's responsible for students, responsible for her own family. And the burden and the weight of that resentment from long ago can come back and haunt you.
So true, Rose.
Yeah. So
So true.
that's stop being aware that you're hard on yourself is probably the best thing, and to turn against it. In ISTDP, we put it to patients that this has been your friend forever, you know, but is there a part of you that wants to turn against it? And enhancing that part that wants to turn against it, and bring that part. It's sort of like two streams in the mind. One stream says, I love you, and the other stream says, you don't deserve to be loved.
Right, right.
And it's all about attachment, sadly. And none of us have been wonderful parents to our own children, and our parents haven't necessarily been wonderful parents to us. And we carry that through for the whole extent of our lives. And I often say to patients, you know, if you think of those piano accordions that go in and out, that's the first 3 years of our lives, and then it gets drawn right out to 70 odd.
So
and
true.
The same story keeps repeating itself. And when that pain comes, it tells you that your body's had enough and it wants to change. And it's calling to you. Pelvic pain,
true.
sciatica, fibromyalgia. I've even realized that even things like UTIs are smooth muscle and striated muscle anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes an infection afterwards, but prior to that, it's actually your muscles that are saying to you enough. And I noticed with back pain,
Rose,
you're told you've got structural problems.
Rose, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because I don't want our guest to leave. So hold on, because I love hearing you talk. So it's the truth, and I hope everybody's listening to Rose's wisdom. So Jane Von Riva, she says, my PT TMS therapist says to me, the body loves to move. And I started to notice that every time when I walk or move my body, her symptoms lessen or move away. Why does this work so good? So I want to answer this, and I would like to get Rose's opinion, but I'm sure Laura will agree. Why, when you move, does the pain usually shift? For some people, I hope it does. It's because you're creating blood and oxygen, and blood and oxygen comes to the muscles. That's a physiological reaction, but also you're creating endorphins, which are natural painkillers. You're moving. That's why laughing is a good response, like Norman Cousins, one of my mentors. But I think, Jane, that when you move, you distract yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's really important, right, Laura?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. When I started out, I was a runner, and I stopped running for 3 years. I never thought I'd run again. And when my physical therapist told me I needed to move, I wasn't sure I could do that. I thought I was going to hurt myself. But I started out small, and I started doing leg lifts and different stretches and different things like that. And I had to concentrate on my breathing while I was doing that too. Yeah. And the pain diminished. Wow. And now I'm happy to say I can run up to 3 miles. And actually, if I'm having a day where I think I might be starting to have a flare up, I purposely go out and run. It's actually part of my therapy that I try to run 5 days a week. And when I'm focusing on something else and I'm out in nature, that it really helps a lot.
Right. That's amazing. Okay, listen to this, ladies. This is Nick from some amazing in the Netherlands. Oh, I deal with chronic pain for 11 years now, burning legs. All doctors said I am just fine, been checked all over by the best doctors. Tried all TMS approaches, and I know it's TMS because it dissipates when he cries his eyes out. Comes crawling up when I wake up. Luckily, he can sleep through it. Any thoughts, ladies, that when he cries, the pain dissipates? Rose? Thank you for sharing that, Nick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd suggest that he's become aware of himself and maybe has got some compassion for himself. So as Laura said, when she stopped being hard on herself, the pain went. It's as simple as that. As that Dr. Sarno said, you know, it's as simple as that. It's so simple. You know, and when you're tough on yourself, you're going to have pain. When you love yourself, your body is going to feel relaxed, smooth, and in the present, and ready to do whatever.
Right. And Rose, when he's crying, something physiological is happening.
Well, it depends in a way, because some crying is about collapsing. Other crying is compassion. So if they were in the room with me, I would be checking on that, because lots of times it's about giving up. But I think that's a bit more complex to go into.
Right.
Whereas if we just acknowledge that somehow his feelings have come up and he's acknowledged them, and it sounds like it's sadness.
Right. And Nick, I don't think you have to cry, Nick from the Netherlands. I don't think you have to cry to get your pain to go away. I think it's a message for you that when you are intimate with yourself and knowing yourself and authenticity is such a key word. And please remind me, anyone on this call, anyone in this live stream, there's an amazing YouTube from Dr. Gabor Matai about authenticity. And when you know yourself, which is a lifelong journey, but for TMS patients and clients, it's a key to know yourself, to get in touch with that place, to see your pain dissipate. So crying is a wonderful way to get in touch, and don't be scared from it. I mean, it's hard to cry. Sometimes we have to put on sad movies to cry and to get cues or you know, what's the word, to get help. I mean, I don't cry easily. It's not easy. You know, I always say that I'm very, you know, I talk about my feelings. It doesn't mean I'm always in touch with them. So I spend my life being in touch really with my feelings and knowing Tovah. And it's a journey. And that's why I do want to mention that owning the TMS tools and reading Dr. Sarno and reading Dr. Schuberner and working with all of us and being on Facebook, this is an amazing journey. And I don't want anyone to believe that that this is a cure, because as far as I'm concerned, only God cures. But you can be sure that you will be, I don't like to use the word in control, but understanding your relationship with pain will help you with pain. And you will develop a control like Laura has developed by letting go. It's a little bit of a paradox and a catch-22, and you'll find that in life. So Nick, keep crying. I want to acknowledge Deborah Ripley, who's had a consult with Dr. Sarno in 2006. You lucky girl. I never got to meet him. Yes, Gabriel Matai is, Nick doesn't have a problem with crying anymore, and he's not ashamed of it. Go, Nick. I love men. I love men that cry. So I think that's all the questions for now. I know that people are watching and may not want to ask questions, so feel free to message us in the TMS roundtable to ask any questions. And Ann Perkins, Carter, Rosewell, White says this is a wonderful forum, and I'm thrilled. By the way, I'm dealing with my fear by coming on here live. So I felt the fear and did it anyway. And like a behavior, I'm getting used to speaking to a camera and looking at myself and counting the freckles, because the best thing what to do with your fear is to understand that you're stronger than your fear. And I wanted to say to Ian back when is that you are much stronger than your pain. And it's really important to understand that the pain is there to give you a message. Wait, I'm seeing some people have joined us. Peg Handsome. I have a story of TMS with some good success in the past, overcoming back pain. Last year, Peg developed joint stiffness and was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that is self-limiting. It's called PMR, polymyalgia rheumatoid. I am also having shoulder pain, diagnosed with rotator cuff. She just wanted to thank us for speaking. But anyway, we kind of want to focus on the solution, but I probably could tell you about 10 of my symptoms. I think Rose might have a few. You know, Rose actually healed herself from many things. So thank you for sharing your symptoms. Is there any kind of question that you might have, Peg? We're here to answer it. Rose? No questions, no more questions for right now.
Yeah. Can I just sort of say again, it's not about the pain, it's about the repressed feelings. When you hold back your feelings in your body, not in your mind or not in your head, but in your body calls out and says, look at me, listen to me. I've got feelings in my gut. We have a colloquialism, you know, I had a gut feeling about such and such and so and so. That gut feeling is where our feelings are.
Right.
Anger, love, grief, sadness, guilt. They're in our gut. Just remember that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Every time you repress them, it's going to come out as pain, or could come out as sarcasm, could come out as talking quickly, could come out in a whole lot of different ways.
Nervous laughter.
Yep,
so, Rose, I'm sorry, Peg did have a question. Forgive me.
For me.
I'm seeing the questions on my phone. So this is Peg's question. With all the things that she developed in this diagnosis of an autoimmune disease, she wants to know if TMS is factoring into her current issues. She had TMS, she had back pain, she healed it. She developed the autoimmune disease, and she wants to know if TMS is factoring into her current issues.
Absolutely. All autoimmune diseases. Anyone who's interested in the acknowledgement of these things, Dr. Alan Abbas has got many Dalhousie University, many randomized controlled trials that you can look up. But again, you can't maybe, that may remain as is, but finding out what's repressed is the most important thing. And then the symptoms will either go down. I mean, they say that these illnesses aren't cured per se, but because of the damage that they've done, like arthritis. But the thing is that if you see what you've repressed, well, your arthritis won't be painful, put it that way. Okay, as Dr. Sano said, it's a normal abnormality. And that's what I absolutely love about that All the Rage movie.
Explain that, please, Rose.
Sorry? A normal abnormality? Well, we're all different, you know. Some people are tall, some people are short, some people have got brown eyes, others have got blue eyes. They're all normal.
Some people have disc problems and have pain. Some people have disc herniations on the MRI and don't have pain. It's
true. But what's happening is the striated muscle becomes tense. And Sano described it as TMS. But if you just describe it in everyday terms of a tight muscle, you've got a tight muscle here, this muscle gets dragged out, the spine then becomes disorganized. And really, our muscles are our scaffold for our spine. And when our scaffolding is slack, loose, tight, too tight, we're going to have pain.
It's so true. So Fabian and Christina have questions. So maybe this one you can answer, Laura. Fabian says, I know it's TMS, but I still have trouble figuring out how to overcome my pelvic pain. What does she do with these feelings when she allows herself to feel them? So she's having pelvic pain. She's having a hard time overcoming it. And her question is, what do I do with these feelings when she allows herself to feel them? Then what does she do with the feelings, Laura?
I think it's when you have these feelings, the best thing I did was writing my feelings down and not just talking them in my phone or typing them. The way I got it to go was basically to write them down, put them on paper, and just to free write as much as I could about that topic. And
Excellent.
then nobody ever had to see those things. I literally took the paper, maybe not that day, ripped it up and throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
So after I got it out, I got rid of it.
Right. Dr. David Hanscom, he's an amazing doctor. He wrote a book called Back in Control, and he's a spinal deformity surgeon, not doing surgery anymore, helping people with body, mind pain. He does a lot of research, or he brings a lot of research to the forefront about journaling. When we write down our feelings, our words, our anger, even if I just visit my journal and say, I don't feel like journaling tonight, when I literally write it down, the research is that something neurological changes in my brain and the process of healing can begin. And there's an enormous amount of research, and I love the science behind it. So it's an incredible tool, and you can try that, Christina, and be patient with yourself. No, that's not, try that, Fabian. Be patient with yourself, and be in touch with Laura about some of her journey. Christina Carlton, what is the best thing to do about pain that comes back every night but goes away during the day? She's eliminated everything else, shoulder pain, allergies, but she has some pain that comes back every night. Rose, what do you think?
Well, it's not about when it comes back. It's obviously that the pain is opening up different areas for her, and she hasn't resolved her issues. And her issues are that she's held back some strong feelings in her gut.
Wow.
So, yesterday it could be one type of pain, tomorrow another type of pain.
Right.
And that's the amazing thing about it, that,
Right.
I would also ask myself what's going on at night.
What's going on for her at nighttime?
Yeah, that's upsetting.
Excellent. I just want to comment that Christina, who we just answered her question, says that she's free of Hashimoto's disease, which is another autoimmune disease. So all the honor to that. That's amazing. I mean, Christina, we'll have you on our show too and talk about that, because I love the healing stories. It's real. This is not magic. This is not new age medicine. This is science. So I want to get to any new questions. Wait 1 second. Jane comes back to say something that really made it hard for her to accept, of course, is that let me read what she said, Jane. Something that really made it hard to accept that she had TMS is the fact that she didn't have pain, but that she had other strange feelings in her pelvic floor. And every time when she believed in TMS, then came the hard fall and thinking about that she had no classic pain. So she says, it's like I lay stones in my way to heal with the trophs. Do you understand? Let me see what she says again. Something that really made it hard to accept that she had TMS is the fact that I'm not really understanding your question, Jane, and I don't want to, it might be just because we're writing really fast. So maybe you have to ask it again, or you can ask Laura personally. And Fabian said, thanks, she stopped journaling for 5 months. Maybe she needs to pick it up again. Always have to keep journaling. It's a pain in the ass. I don't love it either. I keep a journal by my bed, and I keep a gratitude journal, and I'll look at it and it's like in my face. And I'll even write some nights, I don't really feel like journaling, but I'll visit you tomorrow. Or I write in a gratitude journal, 3 things each day that I'm gratitude for. And if you listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about the science of gratitude, and it affects your brain and your nervous system when we're gracious, when we're grateful, when we're compassionate, when we forgive. It affects the brain. And that's why Rose's work is so amazing, because it's like when we deal with our anger and our pain and our guilt, when we understand it, it's like the brain says, hey, thank you, guys. I can just go do my job now. I can make your heart beat, the autonomic nervous system we're talking about. I can work on your heart beating and your stomach digesting. I don't have to protect you anymore, because you have accepted and owned your anger and your rage. And the knowledge of this, like Dr. Sarno says, some people, they do get better by just reading the book or seeing the movie, because they get it in their gut. And like Laura said, we all know about feelings. We've all been in therapy, but are we living it? Are we living our owning our feelings? And that's why ISTDP work is so amazing. Did I say the initials right? IS, yeah, amazing. And I'm in love with the work and learning it. And Rose and I have been working on combining it together, and it's just a beautiful combination. So I'm checking for any more questions. I'm so happy to see you people here. Rona, who happens to be someone I know from Israel, she wants to know, Laura, how long you have been pain-free, and did you get different symptoms after you became pain-free? Which, did you get symptoms after that? And what did you do with those symptoms?
I'd say January of 2019, my pain really started to disappear from all the work I was doing. And it was great. And then this Christmas, actually, I had a little bit of a flare up. And I know why I had the flare up. I was able to put my finger on it, and I was very lucky. Sometimes you get caught up in it, and Caitlin reminded me what I had to do. And as soon as I again became in touch with it, and put a voice to what was upsetting me, I was able to let go of it. I had also stopped running for a little bit, and I'm like, and she said, why aren't you running? And I said, I don't know. And I started running again. I started verbalizing again. It's a constant thing you always have to keep up with. And the pain went right away again. And I've been really pretty good ever since. I've been really good. I've been living my life as soon as I accepted the diagnosis, basically. And like I said, I still have flare-ups every once in a while. But now you know how to deal with them. Did that answer her question?
Yeah, I think so. And so you don't get scared. So so here she's saying, she meant if you had other symptoms. Okay, so because if you had other symptoms, because you told me, Laura, when you were talking about coming on Facebook Live, that you got a migraine.
Yes, I did.
And you realize, yeah, so this might answer Rona's question. So you got other symptoms, and what did you do with that migraine?
I basically,
or the feeling about the migraine.
Yeah, I said to myself, I'm just scared. I'm nervous to come on this podcast and talk about everything. I've never shared my story really before. So it's kind of a big deal for me. And I told some people about the podcast. And as soon as I did that, I got this migraine. But I didn't get scared. I was aware what was happening. I talked to someone about my feelings, a few different people, and slowly the migraine went down. So yes, the pain can shift, but you just don't fear it anymore.
Right. So Laura Ann Grossman Sussman wants you to know that she's on here, and I want you to respond to this, Rose, only because it's important for our community to hear. But let's see who said that. So one of the people, oh yeah, it's Jane, and she's saying she's not in pain. And a lot of the books talk about pain, but she's got sensations like tingling and other sensations. And of course, that's the same, and the same tips and same tools to deal with them. What do you say, Rose?
Well, I find the word pain interesting because some people will call tingling pain, for example. Some people will say, I'm, as a nurse, I suppose I'll put it this way, without knowing about the vasovagal system and all that entails, you think, well, some people can cope with pain better than others. And some people will say, well, it's just tingling. Others will say, oh, yes, a very tight feeling, or they'll give you a whole different bunch of things. But it's about the vasovagal system and how it responds to what's happening. So from that point of view, the next person could call your tingling pain. So does that make sense?
Also, and Dr. Sarno and, Dr. Scrivener, Dr. Schechter, these amazing doctors who were all MDs, went on to discover that TMS can be IBS, can be other things besides pain, migraines, can be other kinds of anxiety. It's all about repressing our feelings and how the body reacts to that. That's the relationship that has to change. And when we do the tools, work the tools, learn a new habit, repeat the tools until it becomes like getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth. It becomes second nature. I don't think Laura has to think so much about what's going on because her body goes right into the physiological cycle, and the fight or flight mechanism doesn't get fired. The brain gets calm, the relaxation response comes in, and Laura can get on with her life. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I also think I try not to even call it pain anymore.
Excellent.
I call it, if I'm not feeling well, I might say to my husband, I'm a little uncomfortable today.
Excellent.
If I sit and say, oh, I'm in pain, this is awful, it actually increases the pain. But if I say I'm a little uncomfortable and then say, okay, now what should I do? And I say, okay, I'm going to take some deep breaths and then I'm going to think about it. But if you say I'm in awful pain, it actually makes it worse. So sometimes it's better just to say you have sensations or an uncomfortable feeling.
So true. I know that I got a little offended on one of the Facebook pages that is run by some great guys in the TMS world, and they have tons of members, and they at some point said, stop talking about your feelings. And I was like, but what if people want to talk about their feelings? Like, I don't want to shut them up more, but they make a great point. They make a great point. They make a great point that, and Michael Galinsky talks about this, that, you have to stay in your heart. And if we're focusing on the pain, we got a spotlight on the pain, we're moving further away from where we need to go. And so I understand the part about the pain and the symptoms and the releasing the energy around it. But at some point we have to cut it off. I have my patients calling it P, or protection, but even that, And I think Rosie's work teaches you more and more to focus on the feelings, which are perfectly comfortable to talk about, cry about, write about, journal about. Right, Rose?
Well, I think that there's another point to it, and that is compassion, self-compassion. I notice that people can write and journal and do all those things, but until they've got that key to open that door of compassion, they're going to continue on with their pain. That's all I can say.
Right. You know,
It's true.
there's a doctor friend of mine from Israel who I hope to have on the show. I don't know if he's still on, but he wrote about an article in Hebrew that I'll translate to English about the slaves of our being the slaves of our mind. And an analogy I use with a patient is that she's sitting in a cell and the door's open. You know how when the people leave a place of being in prison, they're not so comfortable being free. So an analogy is you're sitting in a prison, you're sitting in a cell and the door is open and you're just not ready to go to freedom. And so it's an interesting way of understanding this. I don't want you to be slaves of your mind. And let's chat for a few minutes about the big C, the big corona. I don't want any of us to be victims of this corona. I want us all to be architects of our life, let alone a world epidemic that I don't think any of us have experienced in our generation, in our decade, in our last 50 years, anything like this. And it's mind-boggling for me. And I think Rose and I started this podcast with Michael Galinsky, the director and star of All the Rage, because we felt the anxiety and we used our tools, and we wanted to just remind you and continue throughout Corona, which I hope ends soon, and hopefully after Corona. So can you say a few words about this this challenge for all of us now, Rose, about the coronavirus?
Well, there's a lot of grief out there, a lot of sadness. And for people who repress their feelings, they're probably being stoic. And I'd suggest to acknowledge your pain. Like the gentleman from the Netherlands, he could cry. And as you said yourself, you don't really like to cry, but there's a sadness that we've all facing and seeing in the world. And, there's tears of sadness, but, behind all this is also a lot of rage for being stuck at home, which should be, a good thing, but it's not really a good thing. And acknowledge that you feel stuck at home, that you feel your elderly relatives are vulnerable. I know a number of people now who have lost elderly relatives, and it's heartbreaking for them. So feel that space, feel that grief, feel that anger, but in your gut, not in your head. And of course, that's easy enough said, in your gut, because, but if you've got a barrier between here and here, you're not going to feel it in your gut. That's why, when I came to ICDP and saw what the tools are to just open up that barrier between the brain and the body, it was just amazing. So could I suggest that we step back from our pain and our lives and just enter that space about breathing? Our breath is the most important thing. It's not only is it conscious, but it's unconscious. So if we go to our consciousness now and feel the breath go in and out gently via our gut, via our abdomen. As we inhale, our abdomen expands, pushing up our diaphragm, and then we hold our breath for a few moments, and then we exhale slowly. We pause. We inhale slowly again. We pause. We exhale slowly again. We pause. We inhale slowly again. We hold that breath. We let go slowly and expel it out. See your body soften and notice areas where it doesn't soften. The shoulders, the hips, the legs. And consciously let it soften. I'd like to thank you all for being in this space with us. Please join us next week. I believe we've got Jessica Bolton. Is that correct, Tovah?
99.9% sure, but we'll be here. That's for
She's
sure.
an ISTDP psychotherapist like me from the United Kingdom. She also, I think, she's a trainer. She was the president of our international association. And she's got a lot of wisdom to share with us. So thank you all for being here, and God bless you all.
Bless your hearts. Bless your heart. Bye, Laura. You're amazing. Bye, Laura.